Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. So I was thinking about some other fun stuff and just having a pretty good weekend, just chilling, being at home. And I finally got to one of my watch list items, which was Robo Cop, the new one. I've seen all the old ones. I'm a bigger fan of the old ones, to be honest. But I will say that for leftist media lately and the writers for them, they sure hit the nail on the head sometimes, but they do it thinking they're pointing at something totally wrong and evil that the right is doing when it's them that's doing it. Case in point with RoboCop, the introduction where Samuel L. Jackson is giving his speech. Now, I won't ruin it for you, but he gives a speech and he basically is advocating for the government to allow corporations to police citizens. That's where I start leading off onto what Mr. Guns and Gear was bringing up today. Oregon, and I've known about this for a while, Oregon has just passed by ballot measure one of the strictest gun laws on planet Earth. It's their populace, so it's, let them do their thing. I feel sorry for anyone that's still living in Oregon, but definitely it's bad. It is the most anti-Second Amendment thing I've ever seen. They go specifically after magazines. They go specifically after guns in different ways, different how. It looks like they're going after, like, purchasing type things, too. So it's a full press a full court press, on the Second Amendment again. That doesn't surprise me, coming from where it is, location. And it leads back to what I've talked about multiple times about, I keep coming back to that marijuana thing. And I know the marijuana thing and the gun thing don't go together, but they kind of do. In that, guns have always been around. They will always be around. Marijuana's been around forever. The only way it's getting any kind of traction as far as legitimacy right now is the fact that people have ignored the law. And while I am not one of those people to tell anyone what to do, I am to the point of saying that breaking the law, or a law that I don't see as just, is not as much of a problem as I once thought it would be with me. I've always thought right is right, wrong is wrong, and the law is the law. Then you start thinking about history, and Nazism, killing the Jews, what the Nazis did in World War II, was legal. Enslaving the Jews was legal. Slavery was legal. I am that guy that will never salute any tyrant. And I am absolutely becoming more and more an anarchist because of that. Because what I've noticed more and more, especially after 3 years of being pent down under COVID in New Mexico, although it's been relaxed and our governor is now saying that they're not advocating for childhood vaccinations or mandatory vaccinations at all now. They've backed away completely. That's awesome. But that's also election pressure that is exerting political pressure on them, and they very narrowly won in New Mexico. And as I've said in the last couple podcasts, is who cares? Elections happen. They don't really, it is the one shot that we try to legitimize our viewpoint and our thought process. However, more and more, it's getting to the point that it isn't really necessary for them to legitimize your ideas and your thoughts. You need to. The best way we get out of this culture jam we're in right now is by creating culture. Showing how awesome this stuff is. All those people in very deep blue states or purple states that need to actually get their head out of their butt because they don't understand what the hell is going on with the Second Amendment. You also notice that crime statistics go up in those areas. Why? It isn't the legalization of something like marijuana. It's actually what they do when they get in. Cashless bail sounds like a great idea until you see it in practice. Reforming prison reform. I think there's a lot of people, including a lot of Republicans, that would agree with that's not a bad idea. However, turning away repeat offenders to be allowing them back on the streets without any repercussions for what they're doing is a major problem. And in deep blue areas like Albuquerque or San Francisco, you're seeing crime rates spike. I wonder why. In those areas, you also see them say that you can't have a firearm or you're not supposed to. I don't know very many criminals that obey the law anyway. And I've heard the argument many times, so we shouldn't have any laws anyway then if nobody's just going to obey them except for the criminals. No, laws are kind of guidelines the way I see them nowadays. And why I say that is because it seems like the legal system is made to get you. A lot of the people in the legal system are out there to get a lot of people. And that's how they generate revenue. That's how they generate budgets. It would make sense to me that if you're a free market person and a capitalist, and you were trying to destigmatize something like marijuana, that you would start investing in law enforcement, specifically above and beyond what taxes they're already hitting you for. And I know that is a huge deal. But if you were to take a percentage of your profits, if you had any, and I think that the government limits that possibility quite a bit, to directly fund the activities and the organizations you believe in. And wouldn't it be hilarious that one of the biggest supporters of law enforcement, wouldn't it be hilarious if it was one of the biggest marijuana producers in New Mexico or in the Southwest? Now, they don't have to be very public about it. They just have to be one of those guys that can say, hey, here it is. Because law enforcement's never going to admit that something that was previously illegal is now supporting them or building roads. And I think that's where we need to go, is we need to break the mold of what financial advisors are telling us to do. In any investment we have, we invest in our people. The 2A, the gun shops. We invest in those firearms. Go ahead and buy them because we don't know if we'll ever be able to get them again. So enjoy them while you can. That said, we get to a point where, are you going to give them up? You know, I see all those people that say, well, all my guns got lost at sea or they're buried somewhere. And I'm here to tell you that, no, they're going to take my gun. It's going to be hot. And there's going to be empty brass all the way around it. And they're going to pull it from my cold, dead hand. And I say that not full of bravado, but I think that's the American ethos. The 2A is ingrained in us, especially if you're in the Southwest. I've talked about this ad infinitum. You can't separate the two. You know, the pioneering spirit allows you to defend yourself, protect yourself. You know, once you get to that point where you've actually feel pretty confident about defending yourself and protecting yourself, and you're more alert, that's the best way I could put it, because a lot of people will learn or train, but then they'll go back into what's called coma white, where they're not paying attention to their surroundings. Now, I'm not saying being amped up all the time, but yesterday I picked up a set of speakers at Best Buy, On my way in, a vagrant started to head towards me first, until he saw me get out of my truck, and I'm guessing that my size and stature made him reconsider it. But he found an older gentleman that was walking the opposite direction, and instead approached him. Now, this gentleman tried to sidestep him a couple times until the guy just wouldn't stop, and kept bugging him until finally he gave up. Now, I watched that whole thing before I went all the way inside. Why? Well, I had hoped that the gentleman would get more assertive with his own freedoms, but the other thing was I didn't want to see a fellow man get assaulted for not giving whatever the hell this guy had or asked for, if he did. So, I think we need to be more of that type of community, where we're watching out for kids. You know, it seems a little creepy at times when you're at a store entrance and you're just making sure that so-and-so made it to their car before you go into the store yourself. Or you get in your truck and as you start it, you look around a little bit before you take off. This is what sheepdogs do. We watch our flock. Our flock are all our people. And whether we agree or not, you're still my people. I don't know if that guy would have ever gotten, belligerent. And I don't know if that man didn't have a gun to defend himself. And maybe that's why he stayed in that situation, knowing that he was perfectly okay. That's part of, live and let live type mentality that we all need to have. But at the same time, I think we all need to remember that we're in this to win it, and we need to watch each other's back, because I guarantee you, if that had went sideways, yeah, it would have sucked for me. It would have sucked for someone else a lot more. But more importantly, maybe it would have stopped it from getting way worse. And that's what I'm tired of seeing. You see too many people right now suffering from mental illness, and they're not being checked. And I'm not just talking about with a gun. We have people now running over people in cars. We have had knife attacks in the United States. And one side always seems to look at it and say, well, it's the item. We need to ban this, ban knives, ban this, do that. No. There's one commonality amongst all this. Crazy people do crazy shit. That's it. We all need to understand that, and we need to figure out what's causing it. Because that's where we fix this crap. Like, share, subscribe, be great.